as much as we work to prevent the election of Donald Trump, and I say to prevent the election of Donald Trump because I don't mean to argue that had Hillary Clinton been elected, we would have been in a substantially different situation. When Trump was elected, people began to respond in amazing ways. I myself, as someone who has been involved in activism literally all of my life, I've never experienced, even during the height of radical movements in the late 1960s and the early 1970s, the kind of mandate for resistance that people are producing these days. You know, there are those who are always calling upon people to participate in a conversation on race. And it's my opinion that the most effective conversations take place within the context of activism, within a context of trying to transform the world. You were talking about the problems of assuming that feminism calls for a kind of replacing of men by women, and we were talking about the fact that somehow or another we always use as our standard those who are at the center of the structures we want to dismantle. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so why would women want to become equal to men? You know, why would Black people and Latinos and Arabs and Muslims want to become equal to white people? You know, why would the LGBTQ community want to become equal in the context of heteropatriarchy? We have to be aware of the extent to which assimilationalism always tends to reign. You solve racism by integrating Black people and people of color into a white supremacist society without thinking about what it is we need to do in order to transform that society. And I think that maybe now we're finally beginning to get it. I hope we are. Yes, we always have to believe that ultimately we will be able to change the world. And I say ultimately because this is not a context within which we're going to immediately witness the consequences of the work we do. And I think that today, in 2017, as we try to generate powerful resistance movements against Islamophobia, to protect undocumented immigrants, to protect the rights of trans people, that we're drawing upon forces and we're drawing upon energies that have been created over decades. So now we're, in a sense, reaping the fruits of the work that people, activists like ourselves, and I hope that the fact that there's so many people in the audience means that there are many people who identify as activists. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, just as we're creating the terrain for something that may happen 50 years from now. I like to think that today we're living the imaginaries of those who have been long gone. We're living the world. They want it. And therefore can expect that others will be inhabiting a world that we imagine, maybe not in terms of the specificity, but inhabiting a very new world that is impossible if we do not engage in the kind of activism that is required today. The category women is so internally racialized. So we have to begin there and ask ourselves, well, who are we talking about when we say women? And it seems to me that we will have finally made some progress if women who have always been marginalized from the general category women, which has been about white middle-class women, if those who have had to struggle can become the sign of that category. And what would it be like to have, say, a black trans woman who has been involved in struggles against violence, struggles against the prison industrial complex? What would it be like for that woman to stand in as the sign of the category women? Why can't we assume that those who have had to struggle to be recognized, to struggle for recognition, to struggle for survival, to struggle for freedom, why cannot they become the sign of what we should strive for? I'm someone who, after I wrote this book in, I think it was published in 1981, it's called Women, Race, and Class. I realized that I was being called a feminist then, and my response then was, I'm not a feminist. I'm a revolutionary black woman. But over the years, black women, women of color have redefined the project of feminism. And so the feminism that is on the rise today is, to use the word we were talking about before, is an intersectional feminism. It's not a carceral feminism. It's not a glass ceiling feminism. And it seems to me that someone like Hillary Clinton should have been insightful enough to recognize that metaphors really matter. Metaphors matter. And she constantly deployed the metaphor of penetrating the glass ceiling. Well, who's going to be in a position to penetrate the glass ceiling, to break through the glass ceiling, if not those who are already on top? Men, progressive men, need to take the initiative themselves. They don't need to be invited, because so many of the issues we construct as women's issues, domestic violence, intimate violence, sexual violence, gender violence, they are by and large men's problems. The incidence of violence against women remains the same. So there's something we are not doing. And oftentimes we assume that all we have to do is find out, what the famous activists of the past did, and we have the answer. But that's not going to solve the problem, because those of us whose experiences are connected with the past have not been able to extricate ourselves from some ideas that are often very regressive. Mm-hmm. And I include myself. This is why I think the most important learning I do at this age in my life is learning from young people. Mm-hmm.